How about now? Is it okay? Hmm? Okay. I think it's okay. Aku kayaknya harus baca dari ulang. I'm sorry. The first aku gak tahu. Oke oke. Let's see. Kalau sekarang udah kedengaran ya? Hmm? Oke. Oke, udah kedengaran kayak. The Black Cat by Edgar Allan Poe. Lagi dikit. Okay. How about this? Is this okay? Okay, let's try to read it from the first. Okay, baru ada. Oh my god, I'm sorry. Aku bikin kalian aku bikin kalian ngedengerin sesuatu yang gak kedengeran. I'm sorry. Anyway, aku bakal baca lagi dari awal ya. ASMRly, of course. Walaupun aku nggak tahu. Wait, should I use this? Soalnya aku kayaknya baru nemu. Well, bukan baru nemu sih. Oh, dan juga, oh ya aku lupa, aku belum iniin chatnya. Sorry. Bentar. Aku bikin chatnya dulu di sini ya. Oke. Wait, let me. Oke. Gimana kayak gini? Wait, let me put this on here. Okay, chat. Wait. This is okay. Okay. I hope it's okay. Okay. Anyway, let's start from the beginning, shall we? Oh ya, lupa. Tadi mau nunjukin ini. I found something. Wait. Book. Okay. And cat. Aku nggak tahu cara settingnya gimana. Cuman coba ya, bentar. Aku setting dulu kali ya, sekalian refreshing dulu bentar. Masa ini tangannya nggak ada lengan panjang gitu. Sebentar. If I made this and I send it on here, bentar. Kita cari ini dulu. Terus bentar ya. Aku pengen bikin kucing itu gerak juga gitu kayak aku. Jadi seakan-akan ngobrol. Nggak ngomong juga sih. Ibaratnya kayak bener-bener aku pegang gitu. Oke. Wait. Keto. Hello Keto. Oke. Terus kita kesini. Terus buka. Aku mau buka notepad dulu. Aku kesini. Terus sebentar ya kak. Sebentar teman-teman. Mina chotomate ne. Chotomate kudachai. Wait, kalau gitu ini kesini. We go to the cat, properties. Okay. Be gone Keto. Keto move. Okay. We go here and here. Copy and here. Okay. How about now? Oh, bentar. Properties. Hey, 1200, 1200. Oke. Oh, yope. Oh, kurang ke kanan. Bentar. Kita kecilin dulu. Bentar, Keto, kamu minggir dulu, aku tambahin ke sini. Oke, proses WD 2000. Oke. Oke. Jadi bentar. Keto move, aku pindahin ke sini. Nih, you go here, oke? Cuman aku gedein. Untuk classesnya aku pindahin ke sini. Hai. Terus untuk catnya, iya pe. Aku lupa buat ini. Lock. Nggak usah. Ya lock juga. Lock. Oke, Keto. You go here. Oh, gede banget. Is this okay? Kawaii yo. Ya, ini udah pas belum menurut kalian? Oh, should I? Oh no, ya wait. This. This is okay, right? Ya. Wait, kurang gede dikit. Udah, ya kan? Cocok kan? Gimana? Kawaii yo. Honton ni kawaii. Kawaii. Oke. Jeng. Oke, kalau gitu. Time to read the story. Oke. Oke, kalau ini udah kedengeran, aku bakal baca ceritanya. Sebentar. Let's search. Oh, The Black Cat. The Black Cat by Edgar Allan Poe. Published 1845. For the most wild, yet the most homely narrative which I am about to pen, I neither expect nor solicit belief. Mad indeed would I be to expect it. In a case where my very sense reject their own evidence. Yet mad am I not, and fairly surely do I not dream. But tomorrow I die, and today I would unburden my soul. My immediate purpose is to place before the world plainly, succinctly, and without comment, a series of mere household events. In their consequences, these events have terrified, have tortured, have destroyed me, yet I will not attempt to expound them. To me, they have presented a little but horror. To many they will seem less terrible than Barraquis. Hereafter perhaps some intellect may be found which will reduce my phantasm to the commonplace. Some intellect more calm, more logical, and far less excitable than my own, which will perceive in the circumstance I detail with awe nothing more than an ordinary succession of very natural causes and effects. Aku nggak tahu ya tadi itu kedengaran gimana. Cuman I hope it's an ASMR. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Lanjut. From my infancy, I was noted for the dulcity the docility and humanity of my disposition. My tenderness of heart was even so conspicuous as to make me the jest of my companions. I was especially fond to animals, and was indulged by my parents with a great variety of pets. With this, I spent most of my time and never was so happy as when feeding and caressing them. This peculiarity of character grew with my growth, and in my manhood, I derived from it one of my principal sources of pleasure. To those who have cherished an affection for a faithful and sagacious dog, I need hardly be at the trouble of explaining the nature of the intensity of the gratification thus derivable. There is something in the unselfish and self-sacrificing love of a brute which goes directly to the heart of him who has had frequent occasion to test the paltry friendship and gossamer fidelity of a mere man. Oh god, ini kayaknya tulisannya mulai agak aneh. Well, for me. Anyway, we shall continue. I married early and was happy to find in my wife a disposition not uncongenial with my own. Observing my partiality for domestic pets, she lost no opportunity on procuring those of the most agreeable kind. We had birds, goldfish, a fine dog, rabbits, a small monkey, and a cat. This latter was a remarkably large and beautiful animal, entirely black and sagacious to an astounding degree. In speaking of intelligence, my wife, who at heart was not a little tinturate, itu wordnya susah, with superstition, made frequent allusion for the ancient popular notion, which regarded all black cats as witches in disguise. Not that she was ever serious upon this point, and I mention the matter at all for no better reason than that it happens just now to be remembered. Pluto, this was the cat's name, my favorite pet and playmate. I alone fed him, and he attended me wherever I went about the house. It was even with difficulty that I could prevent him from following me through the streets. Our friendship lasted in this manner for several years, during which my general temperament and character, through the instrumentality of the fine interference, had I plus to confess. Oh, ini aku harus ngeblas kah? Had experienced a radical alteration for the worse. I grew day by day, more moody, more irritable, more regardless of the feeling of others. I suffered myself to use intemperate language to my wife. At length, I even offered her personal violence. Ooh. My pets, of course, were made to feel the change in my disposition. I only neglected, but I used them for Pluto. However, I still retain sufficient regard to restrain me from maltreating him, as I made no scruple of maltreating the rabbits, the monkey, or even the dog, when by accident or through affection they came in my way. But my disease grew upon me. For what disease is like alcohol? At length even Pluto, who was now becoming old, and consequently somewhat peevish, even Pluto began to experience the effect of my ill temper. Okay. One night, returning home, much intoxicated from one of my aunts about town, I fashioned that the cat avoided my presence. I seized him when, in his fright at my violence, he inflicted a slight wound upon my hand with his teeth. A fury of a demon instantly possessed me. I knew myself no longer. My original soul seemed at once to take its flight from my body, and a more than fiendish maleficence nurtured, thrilled very fibre of my frame. I took from my waistcoat pocket a penknife, opened it, and grasped the poor beast by the throat. Oh no! And deliberately cut one of its eyes from the socket. Oh god, this is gruesome. Should I really continue this? Okay, I will continue. I blush, I burn, I shudder while upon the damnable atrocity. When reason turned with the morning, when I had slept off the fumes of the night debauch, I experienced a sentiment half of horror, half of remorse for the crime which I had been guilty. For it was at best a feeble and equivocal feeling, and the soul reminded, untouched, I again plunged into excess, and soon drowned in wine all memory of deed. In the meantime, the cat slowly recovered. The socket of the lost eye presented, it is true, a frightful appearance, but he no longer appeared to suffer any pain. He went about the house as usual, but, as might be expected, fled in extreme terror at my approach. I had so much of my old heart left as to be at first grieved by this evident dislike of the part of creature which had once so loved me. But this feeling soon gave place to irritation, and then came, as if to my final and irrevocable overthrow, the spirit of perverseness of this spirit philosophy takes no account. Yet I'm not more sure that my soul lives, that prevents perferent oh god, I'm sorry. Perverseness is one of my primitive impulses of the human heart. One indivisible primarily faculties or sentiments which give direction to character of a man who was not 100 times found himself committing a vile or silly action for no other reason than because he knows he should not? Have we not perpetual inclination in the teeth of our past judgment to violate that which is law merely because we understand it to be such? This spirit of perverseness, I say, came to my final overthrow. It was unfathomable longing to the soul of facts itself, to offer violence to its nature, to do wrong for the wrong's sake only, that urged me to continue and finally to consummate the injury I had inflicted upon an offending brute. One morning, in cold blood, I slipped a noose about its neck and hung it to the limb of a tree. Hung it with tears streaming from my eyes, and with the bitterness remorse at my heart. Hung it because I knew that it had loved me, and because I felt it had given me no reason of offense. Hung it because I knew that in so doing I was committing a sin, a deadly sin that would so jeopardize my immortal soul as to place it. If such a thing were possible, even beyond the reach of infinite mercy, of the most merciful and most terrible God. On the night of the day on which this cruel deed was done, I was aroused from sleep by the cry of fire. The curtains of my bed were in flames. The whole house was blazing. It was with great difficulty that my wife, a servant, and myself made our escape from conflagration. The destruction was complete. My entirely worldly wealth was swallowed up, and I resigned myself thenceforward to despair. I am above the weakness of seeking to establish a sequence of cause and effect between the disaster and the atrocity, but I am detailing a chain of facts and wish not to leave even possible linked imperfect. On the days succeeding at the fire, I visited the ruins. The walls, within one exception, had fallen in. This exception was found in compartment wall, not very thick, which stood about the middle of the house, and against which had rested the head of my bed. The plastering had there, in great measure, resisted the action of the fire, a fact which I attributed to its having been recently spread. About all a dense crowd were collected, and many persons seems to be examining a particular portion of it with very minute and eager attention. The word strange, singular, and other similar expression excited my curiosity. I approached and saw, as if graven in bas relief upon the white surface, the figure of a gigantic cat. The impression was given with accuracy truly marvelous. There was a rope about the animal's neck. When I first beheld this apparition, for I could secretly regard it as last, my wonder and my terror were extreme. But at length reflection came to my aid. The cat, I remembered, had been hung in the garden adjacent to the house upon the alarm of fire. This garden had been immediately filled by the crowds, by someone of whom the animal must have been cut from the tree and thrown through an open window into my chamber. This had probably been done with the view of arousing me from sleep. The falling of the other walls had compressed the victim of my cruelty into the substance of the freshly spread plaster. The time which, with flames and the ammonia from the carcass, had been accomplished, the portraiture as I saw it. Although thus readily accounted to my reason, if not altogether of my consequence, for the starting fact just detailed, it did not the less fail to make a deep impression upon my fancy. For months I could not rid myself of the phantasm of the cat, and during this period there came back into my spirit a half sentiment that seemed but was not remorse. I went so far as to regret the loss of the animals, and to look about me among the vile haunts which I now habitually frequent, for another pet of the same species and of somewhat similar appearance, with which to supply its place. One night I sat, half stupefied, in a den of more than infamy. My attention was suddenly drawn to some black object reposing upon the head of one of the immense hogsheads of gin or of rum, which constituted the chief furniture of the apartment. I had been looking steadily at the top of its hogshead for some minutes, and what now caused me surprise was the fact that I had no sooner perceived that object thereupon. I approached it and touched it with my hand. It was a black cat, a very large one, fully as large as Pluto, and closely resembling him in every respect but one. Pluto had not a white hair upon any portion of his body, but this cat had a large, although indefinite, splotch of white covering nearly the whole region of the breast. Upon my touching him, he immediately arose, purred loudly, rubbed against my hand, and appeared delighted with my notice. This dance was the very creature of which I was in search. I at once offered to purchase it of the landlord, but this person made no claim to it, knowing of it, had never seen it before. I continued my caresses, And when I prepared to go home, the animal evinced a disposition to accompany me. I permitted it to do so, occasionally stopping and patting it as I proceeded. When it reached the house, it domesticated itself at once and became immediately a great favorite with my wife. For my own part, I soon found a dislike it to arising within me. This was just the reverse of what I had anticipated, but I know not how or why it was. It evident fondness for myself rather disgusted and annoyed. By slow degrees, this feeling of disgust and annoyance rose into bitterness of hatred. I avoided the creature, a certain sense of shame, and the remembrance of my former dead cruelty, preventing me from physically abusing it. I did not, for some weeks, strike or otherwise violently ill-use it, but gradually, very gradually, I came to look upon it unutterable, loathing, and to flee silently from its odious presence, as from the breath of pestilence. What added, no doubt, to my hatred of the beast was discovery on the morning after I brought it home that, like Pluto, it also had been deprived of one of his eyes. The circumstance, however, only endeared into my wife, who, as I have already said, possessed in high degree that humanity of feeling which had once been a distinguishing trait, and the source of many of my simplest and purest pleasure. With my aversion of this cat, however, it's partially for myself, seemed to be increased. It followed by my footstep with pertinacity, which it would be difficult to make the reader comprehend. Whenever I sat, I would crouch beneath my chair or spring upon my knees, covering me its loathsome caresses. If I arose to walk it upon between my feet and thus nearly thrown me down, or fascinating its long and sharp claws in my dress, clamber in my manners to my breast. At such time, although I longed to destroy it, with a blow I was withheld from so doing. Oh no, I'm sorry, my cat. Well, this is a story about black cat, so yeah. Shall we continue? Of course. At such time, although I longed to destroy it, within the blow it was yet withheld from so doing by a memory of my former crime, but chiefly, let me confess it at once, by absolute dread of the bad beast. This dread was not exactly a dread of my physical evil, and yet I should be at a loss now how otherwise to define it. I am almost ashamed to own, yes, even in this felon cell, I am almost ashamed to own that the terror and horror with which the animals inspired me had been heightened by one of my merest chimeras. It will be possible to conceive. My wife had called my attention more than once to the character of mark of white hair, of which I have spoken and which constituted the sole visible differences between the strange beast and the one I had destroyed. The reader will remember that this mark, although large, had been originally very indefinite, but by slow degrees nearly imperceptible, and which for a long time for my reason struggled to reject as fanciful, it had at length assumed a rigorous distinctness of outline. It was now the representation of an object that I would shudder to name, and of this, above all, I loathed to dread it, and would have rid myself of the monster had I dared. It was now, I say, the image of hideous, of a ghastly thing of the gallows. Oh, a mournful and terrible engine of horrors and crime, of agony and of death. And now was I indeed wretched beyond of the wretchedness of mere humanity, and a brute beast, whose valor I had contemptuously destroyed, a brute beast to work out of me. For me, a man fashioned in the image of the high God, so much of insufferable woe. Alas, neither by nor by night knew I the blessing of rest any more. During the former of the creature left me no moment alone, and in the latter I started hourly from dreams, and unutterably fear of finding the hot breath of the thing upon my face, and its vast weight, an incarnate nightmare that I had no power to shake off, incumbent eternally upon my heart. Oh no, this is fun to read. Shall I change my voice like evilish kind of type? Huh? I mean, it's still long. Okay, let's try to read it close to evilish as possible. Okay, I try my best. Beneath the pressure of the torments such as these, the feeble remnants of the code within me succumbed. Evil thoughts became my sole intimates. the darkest and most evil of dogs. The moodiness of my usual temper increased to hatred of all things and all men and of all mankind. While from the sudden, frequent and unpardonable outburst of a fury, which I now blindly abandoned myself, my uncomplaining wife, alas, was the most usual and the most patient of the sufferers. One day she accompanied me upon some household errand into the cellar of the old building which our poverty compelled us to inhabit. The cat followed me down to the stairs and nearly throwing me headlong, exasperated to me to madness, uplifting an axe and forgetting, in my wrath, the childish dread which had hitherto stayed in my hand. I aimed at a blow at the animal which, of course, would have proven instantly a fatal had it descended as I wished. But this blow was arrested by the hand of my wife. Goaded by the interference into a rage more than demoniacal, I withdrew my arm from her grasp and buried the axe in her brain. She fell dead upon the spot without a groan. This hideous murder accomplished, I set myself forthwith and with entire deliberation to the task of concealing the body. I knew that I could not remove it from the house, either by day or night, without the risk of being observed by the neighbors. Many projects entered my mind. At one period I thought of cutting those corpses into minute fragments and destroying them by fire. At another, I resolved to dig a grave for it into the floor of the cellar. Again, I deliberate about casting it to the well in the yard, about packing it in the box as if merchandise with as usual arrangement, and so getting a porter to take it from the house. Finally, I hit upon what I considered a far better expedient than either of these. I determined to wall up it in the cellar, as the monks in the Middle Age are recorded to have walled up their victims. Oh no, ini turned out to be horrors, guys. Okay. Okay, I need a drink. Okay. Such a refreshing drink, guys. Anyway, let's continue. For a purpose such as this, the cellar was well adapted. Its walls were closely constructed. The dampers of the atmosphere had prevented from hardening. Moreover, in one of the walls was a projection, caused by a false chimney or a fireplace, that had been filled up and made to resemble the rest of the cellar. I made no doubt that I could readily displace the bricks at this point, insert the corpse, and wall the hole up as before, so that no eye could detect anything suspicious. And in this calculation I was not deceived. By means of a crowbar I easily dislodged the bricks, and having carefully deposited the body against the inner wall, I propped it in that position while the little trouble I relayed the whole structure as it originally stood, having procured mortar, sand, and hair. With even possible precaution, I prepared a plaster which could not be distinguished from the old, and with this I very carefully went over the new brickwork. When I had finished, I felt satisfied that all was right. The wall did not present the slightest appearance of having been disturbed. The rubbish on the floor was picked up with the minutest care. I looked around triumphantly and said to myself, oh ini ada voice act, kita harus evil di sini. Here at last. Then my labor was not been in vain. I didn't know how it sounds, but meh. I let you guys I let you guys you know uh yeah, I let you guys decide it. Okay, continue. My next step was to look for the beast which had been the cause of so much wretchedness, for I had at length firmly resolved to put it to death. Had I been able to meet with it at the moment, there could have been no doubt of its fate. But it appeared that the crafty animals had been alarmed at the violence of my previous anger. They forbore to present myself in present mood, and impossible to describe or to imagine the deep, the blissful sense of relief which the absence of the detested creature occasioned in my bosom. It did not make its appearance during the night, and thus for one night at least, since its introduction into the house, I soundly and tranquilly slept. Slept even with the burden of murder upon my soul. The second, the third day passed, and still my tormentor came not. Once again I breathed as a free man. The more in terror had fled the premises forever. I should behold it no more. My happiness was supreme, and the guilt of my dark deed disturbed me but little. Some few inquiries had been made, but these had been readily answered. Even a search had been instituted, but of course nothing was to be discovered. I looked upon my future felicity as secured. Upon the fourth day of the assassination, a party of police came very unexpectedly. All the premises secure. However, in the inscrutability of my place of concealment, I felt no embarrassment whatever. The officer bade me accompany them to their search. They left no nook or corner unexplored. At the length of the third or fourth time, they descended into the cellar. I quivered not in the muscle. My heart beat calmly as that of none who slumbers in innocence. I walked the cellars from the end to end, folded my arms upon my bosom, and roamed easily to the fro. The police were truly satisfied and prepared to depart. The glee at my heart was too strong to be restrained. I burned to say it but one word. By my way of triumph, I too render doubly, sir, their assurance of my guiltlessness. Oh, this is so fun to read. Oh, ini ada voice act lagi. Gentlemen. Oh no. Should I say it like more polite? Like I am guiltless. Gentlemen, I said at the last, as the party ascends the steps. Ini voice act polisinya kalau nggak salah. Polisi gimana ya? I delight to have allayed your suspicion. I wish you all health and little more courtesy. By the by, gentlemen, this is a very well constructed house. And the rabbit desired to say something easily. Oh, ini dia ngomong dalam hati. In the rabbit desire to something easily, I secretly knew that I was uttered at all. I may say, an excellently well constructed house. This wall, are you going, gentlemen? This wall are solid to put together. And here, through the more fervency of bravado, I rapped it heavily with a cane which I held in my hand, upon my very portion of brickwork behind which stood the corpse of my wife of my bosom. But may God shield and deliver me from the fangs of the arch-fiend. No sooner have been reverberation of my blows sunk into silence, at first muffled and broken, like the sobbing of the child, then quickly swelling into one long, loud, and continuous scream. Utterly anomalous and inhuman, a howl of a wailing shriek, a half of horror and half of triumph, such as might have arisen only out of hell, conjointly from the throat of the damned of their agony, and of the demons that exult of the damnation. Ini yang terakhir nih. Of my own thoughts, it's verily to speak. Swooning, I staggered the opposite wall. For one instant, the party upon the stairs remained motionless, shook extremely of terror and of awe. In the next, a dozen of stout arms were tolling at the wall. I feel bodily. The corpse, already greatly decayed and clotted with gore, stood erect before the eyes of spectators. Upon his head, with red extended mouth and solitary eyes of fire, sat the hideous beast whose craft had seduced me into murder. And who's informing the voice has consigned me to the hangman. I hate to wail the monster within the tomb. Oh god. Ya kayaknya yang terakhir aku bacanya semangat banget ya. Yep, and that is the end of the short story, or should I tell? It's like an exploration of his short stories by Edgar Allan Poe. Buat kalian yang mau baca ceritanya, kalian bisa cari The Black Cat by Edgar Allan Poe. Menurut aku sih ceritanya gimana ya? Oke. Kita recap dulu ya, recap aja dulu. Ini menurut apa yang aku baca. Menurut aku sih ini genrenya pertama lebih kayak describing ya, kayak mystery of course, kayak yang Anohito udah jelasin, kayak dia bilang it has mystery genre in it. Ya, aku ngerasain misterinya. Kayak banyak apa namanya? Banyak kiasan-kiasan gitu, kayak nama petnya, terus hal-hal yang dia rasain. Itu menurut aku itu kayak kiasan dari apa yang sebenarnya dia rasakan atau apa yang sebenarnya terjadi gitu. Kalau dari aku sendiri kayak lihat kayak gimana ya? Kayak ini ceritanya bener-bener buat kalian yang suka misteri atau suka sesuatu yang bisa kalian enjoy baca. Iya, plot twist bener itu. Jadi gimana ya, buat kalian yang suka plot twist, suka misteri, terus kayak suka kayak wah at the end ini kayak wah apa nih, kayaknya keren banget. Aku rekomenin kalian buat baca ini secara pribadi, buat kalian nikmatin. Misalkan kalian ada yang tadi miss atau kalian kelewatan, kalian bisa baca sendiri. Judulnya itu Edgar Allan Poe, Stories by Edgar Allan Poe, namanya The Black Cat. Oke. For all dari yang aku bisa bilang untuk ini sih, this is a great. Aku bakal kasih nilai. This is 4 out of 5. Kenapa aku bilang 4? Kalau ini recommended banget buat kalian yang udah advance ya dalam membaca ya. Dan aku nggak tahu kalau ini tuh ada bahasa Indonesianya atau enggak. Jadi kalian mungkin bakal harus membaca ini dengan bahasa Inggris. Terus kalian juga harus advanced reader ya. Kalian harus yang udah orang-orang yang suka demen membaca lah gitu. Karena beberapa kata dan juga beberapa kosakata dan tanda baca yang dimasukin itu agak ngebingungin. Bahkan untuk aku sendiri, aku banyak startled dan aku banyak bingung juga intonasi yang harus aku pakai pasnya gimana. Jadi aku kasih nilai 4/5 karena ini direkomendasi sebagai buat advance reader yang suka misteri, tapi tidak bisa aku rekomendasi buat orang yang baca-baca daily basis gitu. Okay, moving to the plot. Aku benar-benar suka buat plot. Di setiap tulisan yang aku baca, setiap intonasi yang aku coba masukin, dan di setiap bukan karakter, apa sih namanya? Karakter ya. Di setiap karakter yang muncul yang baru, tanpa pun mereka mengstatement atau mengeluarkan perkataan atau ya kayak tadi voice act yang aku voice actin, kayak mereka ngeluarin suatu omongan atau conversation, aku tetap bisa ngerasain gitu apa yang the writers atau si aku ini yang dia bisa apa atmosfer yang dia rasain gitu. Aku setiap kata-kata yang aku baca penuh dengan kata-kata yang tadi aku bilang agak rumit, tapi nyaman untuk dibaca. Jadi ketika kita baca, kalau kita tahu artinya itu kayak, oh, this is a nice word. Ini kata yang baik gitu, kayak katanya indah gitu. Emang puitis gitu. Em, Terus untuk apa? Ceritanya aku nggak bisa bilang aku bosan. Karena setiap penulisan itu di setiap titik dimana kita kayak ternyata ceritanya gini doang. Ya suddenly plot twist, totonya kayak oh murder, oh kebakar, oh dia ngebakar, oh dia apa segala macam. Dan ini benar-benar kayak wow, ini penulisnya benar-benar tahu, kayak dia benar-benar tahu how to write. And of course dia itu penulis penulis yang bisa dibilang terkenal karena dia udah nulis banyak banget ya. Dan mungkin secara pribadi aku bakal baca-baca some of his works karena aku lihat juga tulisan-tulisannya juga bagus-bagus semua. Ya ini masuknya tulisan lama sih, cuman ya kadang hal yang lama itu justru lebih bagus. Anyway, we'll continue. Kalau untuk apa ya? Um, untuk story wise-nya yang kayak tadi aku bilang bagus, excellent, tapi agak masih ngebingungin. Nah, untuk karakter-karakter ya, ini dari prinsip aku rasa yang tadi dia ngomongin kayak dia punya pet, a monkey, a cat, and a gorgeous dog, dan lain-lain. Kan itu sisanya tuh kayak dia nggak nyeritain, dia cuma nyeritain the black cat ini doang kan sama wife-nya. Aku rasa, aku rasa ya, karena di sini juga nggak diceritain dia berapa lama sudah menikah. Aku rasa tuh ini antara servantsnya dia, karena dia sempat uh, sempat apa namanya? Dia sempat ngomong bahwasannya dia punya servants, tapi nggak dikasih tahu jelasnya, kayak cuman dia bilang kayak gue punya pelayan, aku punya servant gitu. Jadi pas aku baca, mungkin the lovely dog atau the gorgeous dog itu maksudnya itu servantnya dia. Oh, halo Ray, halo Aldi. Jadi dan untuk lovely wife ini, aku rasa wife-nya ini ya emang wife-nya, dan catnya ini aku nggak tahu ya, cuman aku rasa catnya ini kayak anaknya nggak sih? is it is it really bad for me to think kalau misalkan kiasan kucingnya ini adalah anaknya? Karena kan ibaratkan kayak anaknya ini manja gitu kan, terus mau ikut kemana aja, bahkan keluar pun dia minta ikut, kayak ayah ayah aku mau ikut gitu. Terus anaknya ini selalu minta dimanjain juga sama mamanya. Cuman lama kelamaan semakin dewasa, taulah puber kan, anaknya mulai melawan gitu, kayak mulai nggak harmonis lah sama orang tuanya. Di situ si penulisnya ini atau DMC ya, kita ambil panggil aja MC. Jadi MC-nya ini dia ngerasa bahwasannya lah nih anak makin lama kurang ajar, karena dia marah karena satu hal dia nggak bisa ngerestrain angernya. Akhirnya anaknya ini dibunuh. Mungkin awalnya nggak dibunuh, tapi ditusuk duluan kan matanya pakai pocket knife-nya dia. Bisa mungkin kalau di real life nggak apa ya namanya, nggak ditusuk matanya, kayaknya itu terlalu kejam nggak sih? But I don't know, bisa jadi ya. Jadi mungkin anaknya ditusuk matanya atau disakitin sehingga dia nggak bisa ngelihat lagi ya, mungkin kiasannya kayak gitu. uh, Terus makin ke situ makin bapaknya makin kayak kesel karena anaknya malah makin menjauh. Ujung-ujungnya dia ngebunuh anaknya dengan cara digantung. Nah, terus dia ngomong about the fire, kebakaran di rumahnya. Aku nggak tahu ini kayak dia emang sengaja ngebakar rumahnya atau gimana. Cuman aku rasa the fire yang dia bilang ini kayak suatu kegaduhan di rumah yang bikin bahwasannya dia tuh harus pindah rumah. Kayak karena itu ibaratkan udah jadi tempat dia membunuh anaknya. dia tuh kayak udah pergi dari rumah, kayak dia ninggalin rumah itu, dan rumah itu benar-benar kayak ya gitulah, dan dia pindah ke tempat yang baru ini. Nah, pindah tempat yang baru, dia mengadopsi anak dong. Aku nggak tahu mengadopsi anak atau punya anak lagi ya, karena anaknya sih dibilangnya mirip kayak anaknya yang pertama, si Pluto ini. Tapi dia nggak ngasih tahu si kucing kedua ini namanya siapa. Jadi dia ngasih tahu kayak bahwasannya anaknya ini mirip, cuman ada hal yang beda, yaitu bulu warna putih di bagian dadanya. Dari yang aku pahamin, mungkin kiasannya itu sebagai dimana anak pertama ini laki-laki yang udah mati ya. Ya, dibakar buat nutupin murder case. Cuman aku kayaknya di situ bukan dia bakar sengaja, tapi maksudnya dibakar ini kayak ibaratkan kegaduhan gitu yang ngebuat mereka harus benar-benar pindah. Ngerti nggak? Kayak kayak ibaratnya gini, kayak dia ngebunuh anaknya, istrinya teriak kayak why did you do that, terus akhirnya ada KDRT atau marah-marah. Akhir-akhirnya mereka tuh kayak nutupin jejak dengan konteks ya tadi. Jadi untuk membakar ini tadi tuh dia ada ngomong soalnya starting fire sama burning the house, kalau nggak salah ya, aku lupa. Cuman kalau nggak salah dia menggunakan dua kiasan, dimana kiasan pertama itu memulai api, dan kiasan kedua tuh memulai kebakaran atau membakar rumah. Jadi mungkin dibilang kayak memulai api itu bisa dibilang kayak tadi kegaduhan. Terus untuk apa membakar rumah ya tadi dibakar buat nutupin kasus pembunuhan ini. And then kita move ke timelinenya di mana ya ini anak kedua ini ya, anak kedua yang aku bilang ini perempuan, dikarenakan statement dari puitisnya ini dia bilang mereka semua mirip, dia mirip kayak anak yang pertama, cuman bedanya itu bulu putih di bagian dadanya yang lumayan besar. Dari konteks ini tuh kalau secara puitis aku ngambilnya itu kayak bulu putih itu kan karena dia hewan, di sini di statementnya sebagai kucing, jadi kan kayak hewan punya bulu. Terus dibilang sebagai bulu putih itu sebagai ibaratnya kayak that part particular, jadi kayak khusus di tempat itu ada area yang besar yang membuat perbedaan yang sangat besar gitu. Jadi ibaratkan ya ini perempuan. Nah, aku nggak tahu anaknya perempuan ini kena gimana, karena setiap ayahnya ngelihat anak perempuan ini, dia selalu ngelihat anaknya si laki-laki ini. Jadi kemungkinan mirip-mirip gitu ya. Nah, terus anaknya perempuan ini ya kayak tadi ini bukan melawan tapi manja karena anak perempuan gitu kan. Dia manja sama ayahnya. Dan ayahnya merasa kayak seneng. Cuman karena satu hal aku nggak ingat jelas, aku nggak baca dengan jelas masalahnya apa. Ayahnya ini tiba-tiba mungkin iri karena anaknya terlalu dekat sama istrinya, atau karena ada satu masalah anaknya ini kayak bikin bapaknya ini tersinggung, sehingga ayahnya ini mau mau nyakitin si anaknya yang perempuan ini kayak anak yang pertama. Cuman karena dia merasa bersalah sama anak yang pertama, dia nggak mau nyakitin anaknya perempuan ini. Cuman karena batas kesabaran ya batas kesabaran ya, bapaknya ini uh, narik anaknya, kalau nggak salah nyeret anaknya ke ruang bawah tanah, ke cellar gitu. Di ruang bawah tanah ini bapaknya ini udah marah gitu kan, dan ibaratkan udah nggak bisa ngekontrol emosi. Nah, ujung-ujungnya dia ngambil kapak dan pengen ngapak pengen ngebunuh anaknya perempuan ini. Cuman istrinya ini megang tangannya, bener-bener kayak nahan tangannya di saat kapak itu mau kena. Jadi anaknya ini selamat. Nah, cuman karena ayahnya nggak bisa ngekontrol emosinya, dia makin marah. Anaknya ini, ayahnya ini, suaminya ini malah ngebunuh istrinya. Jadi kapaknya ini langsung aku gimana sih ngomongnya? dibacok ya. Apa ditaro dengan paksa di apa, ditaro dengan paksa di tengah-tengah kepalanya. Oh no, aku ngejelasinnya kayak psikopat ya. Ray udah punya Oyen? Enggak, ini aku dapat gratis. Kebetulan ini ceritanya juga tentang kucing ya, black cat. Tapi nggak ada kucing hitam, jadi aku ngambil kucing oranye. Anyway, jadi kayak suaminya ini menaruh paksa kapaknya di tengah-tengah kepalanya istrinya. Ya begitu. Dan istrinya ini meninggalnya telak gitu tanpa ada teriakan atau apa-apa. Nah, setelah di situ tuh aku nggak tahu nih apa yang terjadi sama anaknya karena nggak diceritain. Mungkin anaknya lari atau gimana. Jadi suaminya ini uh, bingung mau gua apain, mau aku apain nih mayatnya, mau aku bakar kah, atau mau aku mutilasi terus aku sebarin kah, atau mau aku jeburin aja ke sumur kah. Tiba-tiba pas lagi mikir-mikir gitu, tau-tau dia punya kepikiran kayak, hey, I have an idea gitu. Dia punya ide dan dia ngeliat kan bahwasannya bekas pembangunan rumah itu ada bekas cerobong asap. Nah, di cerobong asapnya ini ada yang nggak jadi dipasang tuh, ada kayak bekas, tahu kan, plesteran atau apa sih namanya, semenan gitu. Nah, semenannya ini sama dia dibuka terus mayat istrinya ditaruh di situ. Uh, nggak gitu pak, astaga, psikopat sekali, dimakan ya, makan orang, kanibal. Anyway, jadi tuh dia masukin mayat istrinya tuh di tembok gitu. Dia masukin, dia semenin, terus dia kasih bata. Nah, dia udah beberapa hari lewat, dia tuh udah pede gitu kayak, haha, aku berhasil, nggak ketahuan dong, kayak aku hebat banget gitu. Dia merasa serasa triumph gitu lah, kayak kayak dia serasa above the all gitu. Nah, mungkin karena aku nggak tahu ya, mungkin anak perempuannya ini pergi ke kantor polisi gitu. Pergi kantor polisi, dan 3 hari kemudian itu polisi datang dan nge-search rumahnya, ngegeledah. Dengan ngegeledah ini, terus kayak dia dia dengan PD-nya kan, kayak dia ngomong di sini kan, kayak mana sih? Uh, aku lupa dia ngomong apa. Cuman yang tadi yang aku voice act kalau nggak salah. Dia tuh ngomongnya dengan santai gitu ke officer ya, kayak enggak kok, di sini nggak ada apa-apa pak gitu. Jadi kayak oh oke, gitu. Jadi pokoknya polisinya ini benar-benar nyuruh dia kayak, ayo ikut saya, kami mau ngecek di sini, tunjukin jalannya gitulah. Sampai semua seluk beluk rumah dicek sama polisinya, cuman nggak ada gitu, kayak nggak ada apa-apa. Terus karena dia dia kayak pede kan, dia bilang gentleman, kayak tuan-tuan gitu, kayak pak, jangan, halo bapak gitu, kayak kayak dengan pede lah gitu. Terus oh ternyata ini bukan polisinya yang ngomong, aku salah voice act berarti. Dia ngomong juga ternyata kayak, I delight to have allayed your suspicions. I wish you all health and little more courtesy. By the by, gentlemen, this is a very well constructed house. Jadi dia ngomong kayak gitu, dia ngomong kayak kayak aku kayak aku merasa senang kalau kalian tuh udah nggak suspicious lagi, kayak udah hilang lah curiganya. Terus dia ngomong kayak, omong-ngomong, tuan-tuan, rumah ini dikonstruksi sangat bagus banget ya gitu. Dia halo bang, halo Aldi, kayak Terus dia ngomong kayak dalam hatinya kayak, in the rabbit desire to say something easily, I scarcely knew what I uttered at all. Jadi kayak dia tuh saking pedenya kalau nggak bakal ketahuan, dia tuh kayak dia bilang bilang sesuatu yang dia nggak tahu apa yang sebenarnya dia omongin, kayak ibarat kayak cek-cekin aja nih, kayak ini nggak ada kok gitu, dan dia ngebuat sesuatu kesalahan. Di sini dia ngomong, I may say in excellently well constructed house. This wall, are you going, gentlemen? These walls are solidly put together. Nah, dia ngomong kayak ini apa ya, kayak gimana ya bilangnya Pak, rumah ini bener-bener bagus loh, kayak dibuatnya bagus. Tembok ini ya, nih tembok ini, kalian mau kemana Pak? Nih lihat tembok ini, itu tuh di apa, dibangunnya secara bersamaan gitu, dibangunnya secara kokoh bersama. Nah, terus eh dia tiba-tiba di situ kayak nyadar omongannya kalau dia ngomongin tembok terus kan, dan dia jadi salting gitu, kayak nafasnya mulai berat. Em, dan dia nggak sengaja tuh megangnya di tempat dimana dia baru nyemenin, dan di situ tuh ada batu bata yang benar-benar masih fresh. Di sini tuh dia kayak udah berdoa lah gitu, kayak oh Tuhan tolonglah gitu, kayak kayak jangan 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 bikin aku ketahuan gitu, dia ngomong gitu. Tapi yang tadinya dia ngobrol banyak, tiba-tiba dia diam, dan dia kayak gimana ya, di sini aku nggak tahu, cuman kemungkinan anaknya yang perempuan ini teriak dah. Soalnya dia bilang kayak, di cerita ini kayak, uh, then I was answered by a voice within the tomb. Kayak habis itu aku dijawab sama sebuah suara dari kuburan gitu. Oleh oleh tangisan yang pertama tuh cuman tangisan rintihan gitu, dan tangisan yang patah-patah, mirip kayak rintihan anak-anak gitu yang kayak dimarahin orang tuanya. Dan dengan cepat membesar menjadi satu teriakan yang panjang dan berurutan, dan bahkan terdengar seperti bukan manusia gitu. Terus sampai sebuah lulungan dan sebuah teriakan yang sangat horor, setengah horor dan setengah membabi buta lah gitu. uh, Kayak sesuatu yang benar-benar cuman muncul dari neraka dan keluar dari orang-orang yang terkutuk, dan dari iblis itu tersendiri gitu, yang apa, iblis itu sendiri yang membunyikan itu dari tenggorokannya. Jadi kayak bener-bener mungkin dia tiba-tiba ada mental breakdown ya mungkin. Jadi kayak kayak dia mikirin diri sendiri, kayak dia sampai diam, volley to speak gitu. Dia sampai nyender gitu ke tembok yang berlawanan, dan polisi-polisi yang udah mau naik tuh, yang udah naik tangga, yang udah mau pulang, tiba-tiba pada diem, dan mereka tuh kayak gimana ya, kayak tercengang lah, kayak ketakutan, kayak kayak bener-bener ngelihat sesuatu yang horor banget. Dan hampir setengah dari orang itu kayak mereka tuh ngerobohin tembok ya, dan disitulah mayat dari istrinya yang udah bener-bener kayak sangat mengerikan gitu, sampai bahkan orang-orang di sekitarnya melihat dengan penuh horor. Jadi benar-benar sesuatu yang kayak wow gitu. Dan gimana sih, di atas kepalanya itu dengan mulut merah yang besar dan mata yang gimana ya, nggak kelihatan gitu, tapi merah. Ada duduk sebuah kayak monster yang telah ngehasut dia lah gitu buat ngebunuh. Dan dan apa dan apa ya, yang membuat ada suatu omongan atau pembicaraan di mana dia akan digantung gitu. Jadi kayak apa ya, jadi kemungkinan tuh di sini monster yang dia sebutkan itu istrinya. uh, Monster yang disebutkan ini yang bikin dia sering marah-marah atau ngebuat dia ngebunuh atau segala macam itu istrinya sendiri. Jadi kayak ya bisa dibilang keluarganya nggak harmonis gitu. Ya, I know, right, horror. Aku juga nggak tahu, aku kira kayak The Black Cat ini kayak suatu metafor kayak Schrodinger cat ya. But little do I know, ternyata ini sesuatu yang misteri dan horror. Tapi nggak bikin aku nggak bikin aku bosan atau takut, justru kayak oh, this is exciting. Kayak oh, ternyata ini bagus. Rey, ini malam Jumat loh. Hahaha, ini malam Sabtu. Kalau malam Jumat malam iya, tapi bukan malam Jumat. Hahaha. Nah, jadi ya overall ya tadi aku kasih rating 4 out of 5. Ini bagus untuk orang yang suka baca dan suka genre horor, tapi tidak bagus atau tidak direkomendasikan untuk orang yang baru baca atau bacanya dalam daily basis gitu. Gimana kalau misalkan kalian, oh ya lupa, kalau misalkan nih ya kalian mau dengerin aku ngebaca cerita yang lain, kayak misalkan kalian ada rekomendasi cerita atau kalian punya cerita yang pengen aku ceritain atau bacain, kalian bisa cek di description. Udah aku taruh ada Google Form. Google Form ini yang Story with Rey itu buat apa, buat kalian nge-submit cerita-cerita yang kalian rekomendasiin ke aku. Mungkin aku taruh aja ya di chat. Nah, jadi itulah apa, time to rest ya. Don't worry, aku suka cerita tipe gini kok. Good for you, Reichi. Aku nggak rekomendasiin ke orang yang bacanya daily basis atau kurang suka horor atau misteri ya. Aku udah itu Google Form yang aku cantumin. Itu kalian bisa isi kayak buku atau cerita atau novel atau apa yang pengen kalian aku baca gitu. Kalau secara mungkin aku akan baca buku itu dalam satu stream atau ya dalam sekali stream. Tapi kalau memang tidak mungkin, ya itu aku bakal apa ya? Bakal baca eh, bakal baca ya kayak cerita-cerita yang lain gitu. Eh, jadi ya aku tunggu cerita-cerita dari kalian. Ini juga sebenarnya ada beberapa sih yang masih ngantri cerita ya. Mungkin akan aku bacain di next stream ya. Anyway, begitulah cerita dari The Black Cat by Edgar Allan Poe. Jadi ya, a great story. Oke, karena sudah selesai ceritanya, mungkin sampai sini aja dulu streamnya maybe ya. Buat kalian yang udah mampir dan buat kalian yang udah nonton dari awal sampai akhir, it's a very very thankful. Aku berterima kasih banyak kalian udah mau mampir dan nongkrong di streamku walaupun aku cuman baca-baca doang. Makasih udah dengerin suaraku. Ya, walaupun aku nggak tahu ini ASMR atau bukan ya. Jadi I'm sorry if it's not a really ASMR. I hope you guys enjoy it. I really really hope you guys enjoy it. Oh yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, of course, guys. And it will like very, very meant a lot for me. Anyway, I might end the stream. Bye bye. Should I say like um それじゃじゃあねお兄ちゃん wait kayaknya suaranya nggak gitu. それじゃじゃあねお姉ちゃんお兄ちゃんたちバイバイ hanya itu yang aku bisa lakukan. What's Ray, guys. Bye bye. Have a great night and have a wonderful night. Cheers. Bye bye.